Pocket Landship. This is a solitaire game, also playable in a cooperative variant of steampunk combat. At first sight, I thought it was about World War I until I started noticing the mechas and the suits and other details like that. In this game, you will control a tank and you're trying to destroy a number of enemies. If you can do that, you destroy them all before either you lose your cannon or you lose your hull, then you win the game. Otherwise, well, you lose the game, and that's pretty much the heart of the game. Your tank in the game is made of 3 parts, of a cannon, a hull, and then either the support of shock troops or sponsons. Basically, these 3 sections you get to decide. As you can see, there's several possible hulls, several possible cannons, and you choose one from each category. And that's how you create your cannon, so there is variety there in the kind of performance that your vehicle can pull off. Commanders, each commander will give you a one-time benefit. You choose the command that you want to bring with you during setup. You may also additionally add a driver with to get some other advantages there. The enemies, so this is you, then you have the enemies. You're gonna form a grid of 3x3 cards representing enemy units. They may include mechs, infantry, they may include unattackable traps, sabotage munitions, minefields, things like that, things that you cannot attack that will still cause you grief though. There's artillery, so there is large variety here. You form a set of 9 enemy cards, shuffle them, you form the grid 3x3, and then you reveal the 3 in front. Woo, that will move fast. The idea is that you're trying to destroy the enemies that are here in front. From time to time, you'll be able to attack cards in the back. By the default is you are attacking cards in the front line. When you remove one, if the card behind it has not been revealed yet, it moves forward, it becomes the new front line, and you continue like this until either you kill them all, or they killed you, or they destroyed again your hull or your cannon. If you lose your shock troops or your sponsons, it's bad for you, but it doesn't cause automatic defeat. When you reveal a card for the enemy, and also when you set up the game, you take one of these dice and you place it on each card at the number indicated there. That's the number of health points, hull points, survival point, call it whatever you want. It's the kind of point that when it goes down to 0, the card goes kaboom, or in any case it is removed from the game. And so you want to inflict hits on the opponent until, well, the infantry takes a hit. It goes down to 2. Maybe there's a game effect that gives it some life back, darn it. But when it goes down to 1 and loses that one, that is when the enemy is removed. Some cards cannot be attacked, such as the minefield here. As a reminder, it says so. It says it cannot be attacked, but also there is a little timer symbol here. That means that at the end of each turn, you simply automatically reduce the number of pips on the die there by 1. And when it goes down to 0, you remove the card. That means you'll have to negotiate the minefield for 2 turns, and at the end of those, the minefield is automatically removed. These are the enemies. Well, you actually have to shoot at them. Now, the general idea is very simple, which is you take a turn and the enemies take a turn. Usually, during your turn, you roll 3 dice, which is 1 for each card that you have in play. If you have fewer, then you roll fewer. There may be also other game effects that will change alter the number of dice that you roll. But the idea is 1 per card. After you roll them, you assign them to the parts of your tank, and then they will perform the action indicated there. So if, for example, I was going to give a 2 to this card, then hunker down, no damage to hull, next turn. If I place the 3 here, then fire 2 damage to any frontline infantry or artillery. Ooh, this could be good because there is an infantry here. If I place the 1 here, high explosive shell, 1 damage to any front-like enemy unit. As simple as that. Not everything is good. You may be stuck in the mud, and so there is no action for that card. Jam, no action on that thing. You may have effects for following turns. One card may affect what the other one does, but ultimately you're trying to optimize your dice to inflict as much pain on the enemies as possible. Also important, you can choose to do an emergency repair, which is instead of rolling a die, you don't roll that die, and for the die that you don't roll, you simply recover a health point that you lost. Suppose it's there, I don't roll a die for that card, and then I go from 2 to 3. If you can activate an ability to do so, then it's usually better because you may be able to recover 2 points by spending 1 die. But by not rolling the die at all, you're sure that you will recover 1 by using this emergency repair. Also, the card that is receiving emergency repair cannot perform other actions. So once you performed your actions, possibly inflicting some damage on the opponent and possibly repairing your cards in case you're not feeling too good, then you roll a die for each card in the front line of the enemy, and again that would be the default, will be 3. You roll those, and then you simply take the lowest result and you put it on the leftmost card in the enemy front line, and then you place the other dice in increasing order of value, and then you resolve their actions. 1, oh good, miss, no action, hooray. 4, repair, reduce damage by 1, not so good if there was damage already there. 5, shrapnel, 1 damage to sponsons or shock troops, and that is simply what happens. And that's how we adjust the result. As simple as that. You roll, assign your dice, resolve the actions, roll for the enemy, assign those dice, resolve their actions, back and forth until you defeat them all and you win the game, or they destroy your hull or your cannon and then you lose the game. Pocket Landship is not a bad game, especially for something so simple that you can just play before dinner during quarantine times. You don't have to have anybody around the house to play it, and that's how I played it. I only played solitaire, I did not play the cooperative version. It's also fairly inexpensive. I bought it for $20 at my friendly local game store. I know there was a free trial version online for print and play. Maybe it's still available. That makes it even more affordable. Again, it's not a bad game. It has its moments. There's definitely fun when you have moments of tension, when you're planning your best move, and then of course because of the luck factor given by the dice, you have an unexpected crisis. Now you're down to 1 point on one of those vital parts, then you decide to do an emergency repair. So there are moments of tension there that are quite interesting, moments where you almost destroy that mecha and the mecha repairs itself. There can be really these highlights in the story. I also remember the video game Battlefield 1. For some reason it reminded me of that, when you jump out of the tank to fix it real quick because everybody's shooting at you and then you jump back in. It has a little bit of that flavor, that element there. So it can have some quite interesting, quite fun moments. And you roll dice so many times that although there is a huge element of luck, things do tend to even themselves out to an extent. Again, if you go down to 1 point in any of your basic fundamental components and you don't address that, and then that component blows up and you lose the game, I don't know that it is really just luck. But it can happen that everybody shoots at that one component that was looking okay, and that is blown up and you lose the game. That may happen, but again, it's not a huge element. So when I say stuff like it's not bad, it has its moments, it can be fun, as you can see, I'm not giving it a full endorsement, because ultimately something that weakens is that after a while it feels a little repetitive. There's a nice mechanic to ramp up the difficulty at the end, because of course when you destroy some of the enemies and there aren't many left, then you think the end is going to be less exciting than the beginning. But that is addressed also by the fact that towards the end, when you only have 2 cards or the enemies only have 3 cards, then you cannot do repair anymore, no one can repair, you'll have to just push through that's interesting. But ultimately, one thing that holds the game back is that it's a little repetitive. And so after a while, although there are those fun moments, it just feels a little bit samey, and just rolling those dice, assigning those dice to the enemies, and then I choose what to do. And some turns, there are more choices. Some of the turns, I don't really have any choices because what I can do with my 3 dice is pretty obvious. And so first, just the fact that ultimately I'm deciding if I want to repair +1 or attack +1 or do something else, but the decisions are not very different from one another. I may not have many or any interesting decisions in some turns based on what I rolled. I rolled 1 and 1 and 1. What are my decisions? Maybe I can activate an ability that will change the pip of another thing. But still, they're just turns that are not that interesting. Overall, it feels repetitive. So again, when you take these things into account, you have a game that is not bad. It's quite pleasant, but not quite, the tight, super exciting battle that really keeps me hooked from beginning to end. Yes, you have variety from game to game because you can use different types of hulls and cannons and spawn zones or supports. But then again, it means that in one kind of hull, I have more consistent attack. Another one is like super powerful attack, but also then the chance of jamming. You're just moving those numbers around a little bit. So I think it's quite, again, a good game. It's not a super strong one. Again, for something cheap and simple that you can set up very quickly, play it and put it away, that's great. It's a war-themed filler with some variety from game to game, but not, to me, a lot of variety within a game to really makes it compelling. And this, overall, is my assessment of Pocket Landship.